Margaret's revenge on her jealous daughter-in-law. I never thought I'd have to evict my own son and his wife from the house I bought them. It sounds harsh, doesn't it? Believe me, it felt harsher living through it. But the night my daughter-in-law, Tara, locked me out of my guest room, on my dead husband's birthday no less, a quiet, steely promise formed in the pit of my stomach. She would regret it. And oh, she did. You might think I'm a monster, or maybe you'll cheer me on. Stick around, because this isn't just some juicy family drama. It's a blueprint for what happens when jealousy, entitlement, and a complete lack of boundaries hijack a family. This is the story of how a retired librarian found her backbone, and maybe, just maybe, saved her family from falling apart completely. My name is Margaret. I'm 74, a freshly retired librarian, and, until recently, I considered myself the peacekeeper of our family. I raised 3 boys mostly solo after their dad's stroke when they were young, and I prided myself on never playing favorites, on treating them all equally, with an abundance of love and a healthy dose of common sense. My home was always a safe harbor, a place where everyone felt welcome, loved, and heard. When my middle boy, Eric, brought home his college girlfriend, Tara, I remember thinking, okay, she's certainly lively. She was chatty, loud, a whirlwind of energy, and undeniably different from me. But love is love, right? I believed in giving everyone a fair shot, so I welcomed her with the same bubbling lasagna recipe I've used for every new face at my dinner table since the boys were toddlers. It's a classic, a real crowd pleaser, and usually, it works wonders. Fast forward 8 years. 8 years, 2 wedding ceremonies, 1 big church affair, 1 intimate beach vow renewal because Tara needed to experience both, and 1 precious grandbaby later. That chatty girl, the one I'd welcomed with open arms and a hearty meal, had slowly, systematically, turned my life into a daily soap opera. It wasn't an explosion of jealousy. It was far more insidious than that. It dripped. A slow, steady, corrosive acid, eating away at the foundations of our family, at my peace of mind, until the whole floor just caved in beneath me. I didn't see it coming in one big wave. It was 1,000 tiny cuts. I'm recording this now because the therapist I finally caved in and hired, after months of feeling utterly lost and bewildered, looked at me with kind eyes and said, "Margaret, your story could save someone else's sanity. It's important to share." So here goes. This is me sharing. Grab a cup of coffee, or maybe a glass of wine. Nobody's judging here. Certainly not me. Listen to my tale, and then you can decide for yourself if what I eventually did crosses a line. Because let me tell you, Tara had already crossed it, barefoot, and she was carrying a bucket of red paint. Looking back, the warning signs were there, subtle at first, like faint whispers on the wind. Tara's first jab arrived disguised as sheer, unadulterated enthusiasm. It was at her bridal shower, a lovely affair I'd helped organize, filled with fluttering ribbons and sparkling champagne. Amidst the flurry of gift opening and giggling women, she announced, a little too brightly, "Oh, I simply can't wait to redecorate Mom's house once we remarried." Everyone chuckled, a polite, knowing laugh at the excitement of a new bride. I even laughed along, a little bewildered but trying to be a good sport. My friends, bless their hearts, called it harmless bridal nerves, just a young woman dreaming aloud. But even then, a tiny, almost imperceptible prickle of unease ran down my spine. I noticed she never said our house or Eric and I's house. It was always Mom's, as if I were merely a temporary tenant, a squatter in my own cherished home, just waiting to be displaced. Weeks later, that prickle intensified into a full-blown itch. There she was, posting photos of my living room, my sanctuary, the room where I'd read countless stories to my boys, hosted countless holidays, and shared countless cups of tea with dear friends, on some trendy decorating app. The caption? A single damning word. Before. My beloved peach-striped sofa. A comfortable, well-loved piece that had seen better days but still held so many memories. Apparently tragic. My sturdy oak bookshelf, filled with literary adventures and family photos. Visually heavy, she declared. Commenters, strangers from the internet, chimed in with gleeful abandon. Burn it, one suggested. Toss it all, another advised. And then, the digital slap in the face. She tagged me. Like I should be grateful for this unsolicited public critique, for this free makeover advice that felt more like a public shaming. The gall of it still makes my blood run cold. Still, I stayed quiet. What else could I do? Moms, especially mothers-in-law, learn fast that silence, however infuriating, often keeps the precarious peace. You swallow your pride, you bite your tongue, all for the sake of family harmony. Then came Thanksgiving. Oh, Thanksgiving. I'd spent 2 glorious, exhausting days in the kitchen, lovingly roasting the biggest turkey I could find, churning the cranberry orange relish my boys absolutely adored, simmering my famous gravy from scratch. The house smelled of sage, roasted vegetables, and pure, unadulterated love. Tara arrived 2 hours late, gliding in as if fashionably tardy, not inconsiderately delayed. She wrinkled her nose, a tiny, almost imperceptible gesture, and then whispered. Just loud enough for my hearing aid to pick it up. Just loud enough for the words to cut through the festive chatter. Store-bought tastes better. Eric, bless his oblivious heart, missed it entirely. He was already hauling in her designer luggage, a mountain of bags that suggested an overnight stay, not just dinner. I told myself, let it go, Margaret. Gravy covers bitterness. Just keep smiling. But gravy, I soon learned, doesn't fix entitlement. It merely masks the flavor for a moment. The real tremor, the first significant crack in the foundation, happened after the birth of little Hudson, my first grandbaby. He was perfect, a tiny, squalling bundle of joy that instantly stole my heart. I was so eager to help, to bond, to be the grandmother I'd always dreamed of being. I offered to babysit twice a week, thinking it would give Tara some much-needed respite, a chance to finish her online marketing certificate, which she insisted was her true calling. She accepted, of course. But then, she informed me I'd need to follow her 47-page care manual. 47 pages. Not a guideline, mind you, but a meticulously detailed, laminated, spiral-bound manual. Burping instructions referenced specific YouTube videos, complete with timestamps. Diaper directives specified cruelty-free balm ordered from a boutique in Denmark, applied with a tiny, sterilized spatula. Feeding schedules were broken down to the minute, with precise temperature requirements for breast milk, tested with a digital thermometer I had to purchase myself. I followed every single bullet point, every diagram, every meticulous instruction. I tried my absolute best. But Hudson still cried. Babies do that. It's how they communicate. And Tara, of course, concluded that I must be skipping steps, that I wasn't following her sacred text to the letter. She started dropping in halfway through my babysitting sessions, unannounced, standing in the doorway, arms folded across her chest like airport security, scrutinizing my every move. I felt surveilled, in my own home, by my own daughter-in-law. It was humiliating, and it made me feel like an incompetent stranger, not a loving grandmother. The joy of holding Hudson became tinged with the anxiety of being constantly judged. When Eric finished grad school, he had loans. Not just any loans, but loans the size of a small mortgage, a financial burden that weighed heavily on his young shoulders. Tara, meanwhile, had her heart set on the suburban dream. A picket fence, a 2-car garage, and enough space for Hudson to run wild. She made it clear, subtly at first, then with increasing insistence, that their current tiny apartment simply wouldn't do. I saw the stress on Eric's face, and my maternal instincts kicked in. I emptied my savings, cashed in a CD I'd been holding onto for a rainy day, and co-signed a loan for a charming 3-bedroom colonial nestled in a quiet cul-de-sac, a mere 20 minutes from my own home. It was a significant sacrifice, a huge chunk of my retirement nest egg, but I saw it as an investment in their future, in my grandchild's happiness, and in the stability of my son's new family. The deal, as I understood it, was simple. They would handle the monthly mortgage payments, and I, as the co-signer, would keep a spare key for emergencies. It wasn't written down on fancy legal paper, but then again, family often operates on invisible ink, on unspoken agreements and mutual trust. I believed we had that trust. I truly wanted them to thrive, to build their own life, so I gave them space. Lots of it. I always phoned before visiting, never stayed more than an hour, and always arrived with groceries or a home-cooked meal, often my famous lasagna, hoping to foster that sense of welcome I valued so much. I thought I was being the ideal mother-in-law, helpful, but not intrusive. Tara, however, seemed to treat my spare key like a burglar's tool. She'd text Eric, "Your mom's timing is suspicious." Even when I came bearing pot pies and freshly baked cookies, it was baffling, hurtful. Was I not allowed to show up with a meal for my son and his family? One Saturday, I arrived with a casserole dish still warm from my oven, ready to drop it off, and found the locks changed. Just like that. No warning, no conversation. Eric, looking utterly miserable and avoiding my gaze, mumbled something about landlord requirements and slipped me a new key, one that, to my growing humiliation, opened only the side door. The side door that led straight into the laundry room, past overflowing hampers, detergent bottles, and the cat litter box. The message was loud, clear, and utterly demeaning. I was no longer a welcome visitor. I was relegated to the service entrance. Still, I swallowed my pride. I swallowed it the way you swallow soggy cereal, quickly, before it has a chance to fully stick in your throat and make you gag. I told myself it was just Tara being Tara, that it wasn't worth causing a fuss over. But then came the property tax surprise. The county raised assessments, as they do, and their escrow payments shot up. They fell behind. Bank sent warnings. Eric sounded frantic on the phone, his voice laced with panic, talking about late fees and potential penalties. My heart ached for him. Without hesitation, I paid the $200 shortage. No questions asked, no contract drawn up, no expectation of immediate repayment. It was simply what a mother does, what I felt compelled to do for my son. Tara's thank you? A Facebook post. "God provides when you least expect it," she wrote, accompanied by a photo of her perfectly frothed cappuccino, the foam shaped like a delicate heart. No tag, no mention of me, no acknowledgement of my significant contribution. Just 400 likes from her online admirers. It was a public performance of gratitude, completely devoid of any actual gratitude towards me. It was as if I didn't exist, as if my generosity was simply an anonymous blessing from the universe, not a tangible act of love and sacrifice. That post, that small, seemingly innocuous gesture, felt like a deliberate erasure. My husband, Thomas, passed away on December 12th, 7 years ago. 7 years. It still feels like yesterday sometimes. Every year since, I've hosted a small, intimate dinner on that date. His favorite, a rich, slow-cooked beef stew, served in the very house we shared, the house where we raised our boys. It's a quiet tradition. Friends, those who knew him best, bring stories, we raise a glass, and we toast his terrible jokes, his booming laugh, his unwavering kindness. It's my way of keeping his memory alive, of feeling his presence in the home he loved so much. This year, Eric called, his voice hesitant, almost apologetic. "Mom," he began, "could we maybe move the dinner to a restaurant this year? Tara, she really needs the baby to nap by 7, and, you know." I reminded him, gently but firmly, that the event typically ends by 8:30, and we always keep our voices low, respectful of the solemnity of the occasion. It was a small ask, I thought, for a day so important to me. But Tara, ever the interrupter, jumped on the line, her voice sharp and dismissive. "Margaret, you're being unreasonable. Babies trump ghosts." The words hung in the air, a cold, cruel statement that sliced through me. Babies trump ghosts. It was a deliberate, calculated insult, a dismissal of my grief, of my husband's memory, of everything I held sacred. My hand trembled as I held the phone. I hung up. I just hung up. I knew that if I stayed on the line for another second, I would say something truly irreversible, something that would tear our already fragile family apart. The disrespect, the sheer audacity was breathtaking. The night of the dinner arrived, bringing with it a blanket of thick, heavy snow. 8 inches, the forecast had predicted, and it delivered. I spent the afternoon shoveling my driveway, a solitary ritual, clearing a path for my friends. The crock pot bubbled gently on the counter, filling the house with the comforting aroma of beef stew. I lit candles, put on some quiet jazz, and tried to recapture the peace I usually found on this difficult day. The doorbell chimed. I opened the door, expecting my sister, and there she was, Tara. Standing in my hallway, a forced saccharine smile plastered across her face, holding Hudson's car seat like a weapon. "Change of plans," she announced, her voice overly sweet, dripping with feigned innocence. "We're joining you." I had not invited her, not in a million years. My mind reeled. This was my private space, my sacred remembrance. She set the car seat, with a sleeping Hudson inside, directly onto my antique rocking chair, a cherished family heirloom. She kicked off her boots, leaving a trail of melting snow on my Persian rug, and then, with a casual wave of her hand, declared, "Hope you made enough stew." I breathed through my nose, counted to 10, then 20. I ladled bowls of stew, forced myself to make polite conversation, and kept the evening moving, trying desperately to preserve some semblance of dignity for my guests and for myself. When dessert hit, a moment of fleeting relief, she simply disappeared upstairs. I assumed, perhaps optimistically, that she needed a bathroom break, or maybe a moment to herself. New moms need a minute after all. 10 minutes later, a strange, grating sound echoed from upstairs, the distinct, unmistakable screech of packing tape. My heart began to pound with a sickening dread. Packing tape? What on earth? I climbed the stairs, my legs feeling heavy, my mind racing through impossible scenarios. I pushed open the guest room door, the room where my husband's clothes still hung, where his scent still lingered, where I often went to feel close to him. And there she was, Tara, calmly, methodically, sealing a box filled with my late husband's sweaters. I stared, utterly speechless, the words catching in my throat. Finally, a strangled whisper escaped. What on earth do you think you're doing?" She didn't even flinch. She just shrugged, a dismissive flick of her shoulder. "These smell like an attic, Margaret. Hudson needs drawer space for the overnight clothes." Overnight? Overnight? No one had invited her to stay. No one had even suggested it. And then, as if to twist the knife, she added, with a casual cruelty that still haunts me, "You should really thank me. This stuff is hoarder level." That was it. That was the moment. The switch flipped. Not the light switch, though the room seemed to darken around me. It was the internal one, the one deep inside me that had been flickering for years, trying to hold back the tide. The one that turned grief into gasoline, hurt into cold, hard resolve. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even raise my voice. I simply stepped aside. My face, I imagine, a mask of stone, so she could finish taping the box shut. Then I walked out of that room, closed the door behind me with a quiet click, and started planning. The peacekeeper was officially off duty. I gave myself 48 hours to formulate my plan. This wasn't going to be some impulsive emotional outburst. This was going to be surgical, deliberate, and entirely within the bounds of the law. Rule 1 was crystal clear. Nothing illegal. Nothing that would land me on a reality cop show or, worse, compromise my integrity. Rule 2. Hurt the entitlement, not the baby. Hudson was innocent, and my love for him remained unwavering. This was about Tara's behavior and Eric's inaction, not about punishing my grandson. And Rule 3, perhaps the most crucial. Make Eric finally understand the true value of a backbone. He needed to learn to stand up, not just for me, but for himself and his family. My first call the next morning was to legal counsel. A good friend, Martha, a sharp-as-a-tack attorney who had handled my husband's estate, listened patiently to my story, her silence a comforting presence on the other end of the line. It turns out, as co-signer on the mortgage, I wasn't just a guarantor, I was on the deed. This meant I had legal standing. This meant I could force a sale with proper notice. A wave of both dread and empowerment washed over me. The power dynamics had just shifted, dramatically. Second, I meticulously combed through their mortgage statements. I had copies, of course, because I'm Margaret, the retired librarian who keeps everything organized. What I found was infuriating, yet confirming. Despite my previous bailout for the property taxes, they were now 3 months behind on payments, accumulating late fees. The bank was sending increasingly stern notices. Banks I knew moved slowly, deliberately. But grandmas, when pushed to their limit, can move with surprising speed and precision. I called another friend, Carol, a realtor I'd known for decades. I asked her for a competitive market analysis on their house. I kept my voice neutral, explaining I was just looking into options for Eric and Tara, hinting at their financial struggles without betraying too much. Her number, when it came back, was a shock, even to me. The property had appreciated by a staggering $60,000 since ID helped them purchase it. $60,000. If I sold, they wouldn't just lose their home. They'd lose every penny of that equity, the equity they likely considered their rightful inheritance. A nest egg they had done precious little to earn. Good. That felt right. Next, I drafted a formal notice of intent to sell. It was polite, impeccably worded, and utterly official. I copied it to Eric's email and to Martha, the attorney who had handled my husband's estate, just to ensure all legal bases were covered. The subject line? A masterpiece of understated aggression. Preservation of investment. I attached a detailed spreadsheet, a document I had meticulously compiled over the years, logging every single financial contribution I had made to their lives and their home. The initial down payment, the property tax bailout, the new refrigerator, the lawnmower I bought them when Eric complained about cutting the grass, even the ridiculously overpriced crystal nursery chandelier Tara had begged for on Etsy. I did not threaten eviction. That wasn't my style. The law, I knew, would do that for me, cold and impersonal. I ended the email with a final, chillingly polite sentence. Love you both. Choices have consequences. Then, with a deep breath, I scheduled an open house for the following Saturday. The blueprint was complete. The wheels were in motion. Thursday morning, the doorbell rang at precisely 7 a.m. I knew it would be him. Eric stood on my porch, looking utterly defeated, his eyes puffy, his hoodie inside out. He looked like he hadn't slept a wink. "Mom," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "What are you doing?" I invited him in, my face carefully neutral, my demeanor calm. I poured 2 coffees, strong and black, just how he liked them, and slid the stack of paperwork, the notice of intent, the market analysis, the spreadsheet, across my kitchen table. I explained everything, calmly and methodically. I talked about liens, about credit scores, about the legal ramifications of co-signing a mortgage. I explained how my name on that deed made me liable, entirely liable, if the bank foreclosed. He nodded, his head hanging low, but I could see the confusion in his eyes. Tara, I realized, had spun this whole situation, twisting my actions into a personal attack, a cruel vendetta, rather than a consequence of their own choices. He simply hadn't grasped the gravity of their financial situation, or my legal exposure. I looked at him, my son, the boy I'd raised, now a grown man utterly lost. "Eric," I said softly, "what do you want to do about this?" He finally met my gaze, his eyes filled with a desperate plea. He said, "Mom, please, can't we just fix this without embarrassing Tara? She's so upset." My heart ached for him, but I knew I couldn't waver. "The only fix, Eric," I replied, my voice firm, "is responsibility. You two need to catch up on your payments, refinance the loan, and remove my name from the deed. That's the only way." He claimed, almost pitifully, that they couldn't possibly qualify for a refinance without my credit, without my financial backing. And there it was. Exactly. The core of the problem. Their entire financial life was built on my generosity, and they had come to expect it, to demand it, without any reciprocal sense of responsibility. We hugged then, a long, tight embrace, the first real one since Hudson's birth. I felt his shoulders shake slightly. It was a hug of desperation, of fear, but also, I hoped, of dawning realization. He promised to talk to Tara, to make her see reason. I warned him, my voice softening just a fraction. "Do it fast, son. Buyers are touring in 48 hours. Tara's response, predictably, came via social media. A selfie, perfectly angled to capture her tear-filled eyes, captioned with a dramatic declaration. "Toxic mill energy is real." Then, the phone call. Her voice was syrupy, dripping with false concern, an attempt to manipulate me back into line. "Margaret," she purred, "you're traumatizing your son over money. Is your pride really worth more than family?" My new resolve held firm. "Check the calendar, Tara," I replied, my voice calm, steady, and utterly devoid of emotion. "Saturday sale is family-friendly." The line went dead. She had hung up on me. But this time, it felt different. This time, I knew I had won the first round. Saturday arrived, crisp and clear, frigid but brilliantly sunny. A perfect day, I thought, for a new beginning. I'd baked cinnamon rolls that morning, an old realtor trick I'd picked up somewhere. The sweet, warm scent of cinnamon and sugar wafted through the house, making it smell like home, inviting and comforting, despite the underlying tension. Buyers streamed through the door, young couples with starry eyes, a single dad carefully measuring rooms with his phone, even a pair of investors, sleek and businesslike, planning to flip the property for a quick profit. Tara, meanwhile, had barricaded herself in the master suite. Lights off, curtains drawn, a defiant act of protest. I could hear the faint murmur of a TV, probably some reality show, a fitting soundtrack to her self-imposed exile. I ignored her, pretending she wasn't there, focusing instead on the potential buyers, answering their questions with a professional smile. I saved the nursery for last. It was still decorated exactly as Tara had left it, pastel colors and whimsical mobiles, a stark contrast to the sterile formality of the rest of the house. Showing it felt like a deliberate act, a way of reclaiming the space, of acknowledging the life that had been there, and the new life that would soon fill it. By noon, I had 3 solid offers, one of them above the asking price. I accepted the couple paying cash, a 30-day close. 30 days. That gave Eric and Tara 4 weeks to vacate, a perfectly reasonable time frame under state law. It was more than enough. When the final car pulled away, its engine a low hum fading into the quiet street, Tara emerged from her sanctuary. She marched downstairs, Hudson on her hip, his little face confused, his diaper bag swinging like a medieval flail, a weaponized accessory. Her eyes were blazing, her face contorted with fury. "You're evicting your grandchild," she screamed, her voice echoing in the suddenly empty house. I simply looked at her, my expression unreadable. "No, Tara," I replied, my voice calm, level, almost unnervingly so. "The buyers love kids. They'll probably plant lilacs where your succulents currently wilt." The thought of her neglected, wilting succulents, a symbol of her half-hearted attempts at domesticity, brought a tiny, almost imperceptible smirk to my lips. She called me a bitter old woman, a cruel, heartless monster. I just met her gaze, a small, knowing smile finally touching my lips. "Bitter gets things done," I said. And in that moment, it felt like the truest thing I had ever uttered. The fallout was swift and brutal. Eric moved into a long-stay hotel that very night, a quiet, desperate retreat from the storm. Tara followed 2 days later after refusing to speak to me, her silence a dramatic, futile protest. My phone exploded. Relatives, neighbors, even the well-meaning but utterly bewildered pastor called, their voices a cacophony of judgment and support. Half called me brave, a woman finally standing up for herself. The other half called me cruel, heartless, a family wrecker. I gave both groups the same unwavering line. Family relies on boundaries, not blind loyalty. It was a truth I had learned the hard way, and I wasn't about to back down. The thing about revenge, I discovered, is that it doesn't taste like dessert. It tastes like burnt coffee, harsh, acrid, leaving a lingering bitterness in your mouth. It keeps you awake, buzzing with a strange, uncomfortable energy, but it doesn't bring peace. I lost sleep anyway, replaying every moment, every word. I replayed Hudson's giggle, the way his tiny legs kicked with joy when I sang Motown songs to him. I pictured his sweet, innocent face, and a cold dread settled in my stomach. Had I destroyed my window into his life? Had I sacrificed my relationship with my grandson for the sake of a principle? The victory felt hollow, tinged with a profound sadness. I had taken back my power, yes, but at what cost? Then came the apology. But it wasn't from Tara. It was a voicemail from Eric, left late one night, his voice shaky but clear. "Mom," he said, "we found an apartment. It's small, really small, but we qualify on our own, for the first time. I should have stepped up sooner. Can we talk?" A profound relief washed over me, so strong it almost brought me to my knees. We met at a neutral diner, a place with red vinyl booths and lukewarm coffee, far from any family battleground. He looked thinner, older, the weight of responsibility etched on his face, but there was a new strength in his posture. His shoulders were back, his gaze steady. Tara stayed home. She wasn't ready, he said. And that was fine, more than fine. Reunion, I realized, doesn't require photo ops or grand gestures. Sometimes it just requires one person to finally take responsibility. From that moment at the diner, Eric started to rebuild his life, piece by painstaking piece. He refinanced his car, a practical, necessary step towards financial independence. He picked up extra shifts, working overtime, his determination palpable. He even enrolled in an employer-sponsored MBA program, investing in his future, in a way he hadn't seemed capable of before. He was finally growing up, stepping into the role of a responsible husband and father, not just a son caught in the crossfire. Tara, too, made some adjustments, albeit more grudgingly. She eventually sold her designer stroller online, a small but significant sacrifice, to cover daycare costs. Tough? Yes, absolutely. But necessary? Also, unequivocally, yes. They were learning to stand on their own 2 feet, to manage their own finances, to prioritize their needs over their wants. It wasn't always pretty, and I knew there were still struggles. but they were their struggles, and they were facing them together. Last month, they invited me to Hudson's second birthday party. It wasn't a lavish affair at some fancy hotel ballroom, as Tara might have once envisioned. It was a simple, joyful gathering at a local park pavilion, filled with balloons, sticky fingers, and the happy squeals of toddlers. I brought cupcakes, my own small contribution, with no strings attached, no expectations. Tara greeted me with a quiet, almost shy, "Thanks for coming, Margaret." No hug, no effusive embrace, but also no eye roll, no thinly veiled insult. Just a simple, direct acknowledgement. Progress, I thought, travels in inches, not miles. And I was grateful for every single inch. As for the proceeds from the house sale, I didn't keep a penny for myself. I quietly deposited the entire amount into a 529 college savings plan for Hudson. It was his future, his inheritance, untainted by the bitterness of the past. I didn't announce it. I didn't seek gratitude. I simply mailed Eric the confirmation. His response, when it came, was a single emoji. Sometimes I realized that's more than enough. It was a silent acknowledgement, a shared understanding, a quiet thank you that resonated deeper than any words could have. It was a sign that perhaps we were all, slowly but surely, learning. Jealousy is a sly, cunning emotion. It tricks you into keeping score of love as if it is a finite pie. A zero-sum game where fewer slices for others somehow means more for you. It whispers insidious lies, telling you that if someone else is appreciated, or loved, or valued, it diminishes your own worth. But the truth, the beautiful, undeniable truth, is that love compounds. The more you give, the more you allow to flow freely, the bigger the pie grows for everyone. Tara, in her misguided attempts, thought pushing me out would secure her spot, solidify her position as the sole matriarch. Instead, she cracked the very foundation of the family she claimed to cherish, creating a chasm of resentment and mistrust. For mothers-in-law out there, listening to my story, protect your dignity. Protect it fiercely, before resentment hardens into mortar, before bitterness becomes a permanent fixture in your soul. Set your boundaries early, clearly, and consistently. Don't let yourself be erased or disrespected, even for the sake of a perceived peace. Because that peace, if it comes at the cost of your self-worth, is no peace at all. For daughters-in-law, remember, his family existed long before your chapter began. They are the prequel, the origin story, the foundation upon which your husband was built. Honor that prequel. Honor the history. If you want harmony in the sequel, understand that love isn't a competition. A mother's love for her son, a grandmother's love for her grandchild, doesn't diminish your own. It enriches it. Embrace the lineage. Don't try to dismantle it. And for the sons caught in the bewildering, often painful, middle, grow a spine, please. Before the women you love grow battle lines so deep they become impassable trenches. Your role isn't to be a referee, but a bridge builder. Your loyalty should be to the health and respect of your entire family, not just to the loudest or most demanding voice. You have the power to mediate, to advocate, to ensure that everyone feels valued and heard. Use it. And for anyone fantasizing about revenge, anyone who feels that burning urge for retribution, calculate the cost. Then double it. Because eviction notices can remove people from property. They can change addresses and unlock doors, but they cannot, remove anger from people's hearts. They don't erase the hurt, or magically mend broken bonds. Healing still demands humility. It demands honest apologies, both given and received. And most importantly, it demands time. Time to process, to forgive, to rebuild. My revenge was a necessary evil, a painful lesson, but it was never a cure-all. The road to true peace is paved with far more difficult, far more vulnerable actions than simply winning a battle. If this story rattled you, if it made you nod your head in understanding, or shake it in disbelief, please hit like so others can find it. And I really want to hear from you. Comment below. Was I heartless, or was I fair? Did I go too far, or did I do what needed to be done? I read every single opinion, even the spicy ones, especially the spicy ones. And if you want more real-life family drama, more stories of navigating the messy, complicated, beautiful chaos of human relationships, then make sure to subscribe. Trust me, the inbox of a retired librarian who's seen it all never runs empty. I miss that house sometimes. I miss the familiar creak of the third stair, the one that always announced someone was coming down for a midnight snack. I miss the sweet, heady scent of lilac that drifted through the open windows each May, filling the air with a promise of spring. But what I don't miss, not for a single second, is feeling like a visitor in my own generosity, feeling like my home, my life, my very identity was being slowly chipped away. Tara may never adore me, and honestly, that's perfectly okay. I've come to terms with that. Families aren't built solely on adoration. They're built on something far more foundational, far more resilient: respect. Today, when I babysit Hudson, Tara texts "thank you" instead of a 47-page manual of instructions. It's a small shift, but it's a monumental one. We're learning, all of us, slowly, painfully, but we're learning. So, if jealousy knocks at your door, don't invite it in for tea. Don't let it settle in and get comfortable. And if you've already made that mistake, if it's already rearranging the furniture of your life, then show it out. Show it out forcefully, decisively, before it changes the locks. Because once you lose the keys to your own life, once you surrender control of your peace and your boundaries, changing the locks and reclaiming your space might just be the only way back inside. I'm Margaret, and that's how I took my life back. One signature, one sale, one hard-won boundary at a time.